beginning with the end in mind. It's that, habit 2, begin with the end in mind. You got to know what you want. You wouldn't start building a house if you didn't have the blueprint. You don't just find a spot and then start, laying down bricks and then seeing what happens. That would be the dumbest thing, right? You know where every element of this wants to be. And I think a big part of that too is understanding your values, right? You have to understand what you place value in. Is it, I want to be financially independent? Is it, I want to have a minimally stressful day or life? Is it, I want to have meaningful relationships? Are relationships important? Are they of value to you?
Thanks for tuning in to the Elevation Recovery Podcast, your hub for addiction recovery strategies, hosted by Chris Scott and Matt Finch.
Welcome to episode 258 of Elevation Recovery. My name is Matt Finch, and today I'm interviewing and chatting with Fit Recovery Coach Zach Reeder. We have a topic planned out for you that we think you're really going to love. The title is How to Live a Life and Create a Life Without Alcohol That Is Both Enjoyable and Not Boring. I don't know about you, but when I used to get sober for a few days or a week or a few months, and then all my friends would still be drinking and going to parties in the bars and hooking up with girls. And at that age, in my mid-20s at that point, life without alcohol was so boring. It was not too enjoyable. If the waves were really good, which happened sometimes, life was great. But whenever there was no really good waves to go surf, I didn't really have too many other tools. And it was, life was not that enjoyable and not that exciting. It was pretty boring, at least at that age. And I know a lot of people are, looking for things on YouTube about life without alcohol, how to create a life without alcohol. What does living without alcohol look like? Can you enjoy it? Can it be like really, really exciting and adventurous and fulfilling and not boring? So these are some of the things we're going to tackle. And Zach and I also created a little step-by-step system that should help, rather than just, talk about our lives without alcohol, how we did it. I'm sure we'll do some of that too, but give you a blueprint, so to speak, a step-by-step framework or mental model, a way to think about it. So this is going to be one that would be really cool to take notes, even watch a second time, because we guarantee you that if you use what you learn here, use this process, it is a proven roadmap that is 100% customizable for your exact preferences, personality, lifestyle, situation, needs, resources, all those different and many other variables. So this is kind of not necessarily a one-size-fits-all treatment approach, but most likely a one-size-fits-all mental model or framework that you can individualize. So getting right into it. Thank you so much, Zach. Good to see you. It's been a while before we've talked, and I know you just got engaged. So congrats on that. You also have a few coaching spots available, your first one since 2022, which we'll get into a little later. So how you been, man?
Dude, I'm fantastic. It's been way too long since you and I have been able to chat or had the opportunity, but I have some really great things happening with the local agency that I work at here in Ohio, regarding creating a holistic and comprehensive model to incorporate health and wellness within the treatment model. Normally you'd see that in an inpatient type of facility where, that's a lot more present, but to take it and use it in an outpatient where we have a network of providers. So we're partnering up with a local hospital, Ohio Health, to provide addiction medicine and dietary nutrition. And we are in the process of finding grant funding to build a fitness education center in our new building. And so we'll be able to incorporate, like I said, addiction medicine, being able to get appropriate nutrition that is custom fitted to someone that's been nutrient deficient due to chronic substance and alcohol use, and getting them learning how to properly work out, because that's one of the worst things. I know for a lot of people, whether it's addiction or just trying to make some lifestyle changes, you walk into a gym and you have all these complicated machines and it can be very intimidating. You have all these people that really look like they know what they're doing, but having the courage to walk up to somebody and go, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing here," can, so being able to incorporate a clinical model of treatment programming that incorporates fitness education to teach them how to work out, and then sending them to their respective corners of the world to find a local gym they can go work out at. But then also still offering, all the normal clinical services, individualized counseling, mental health, drug and alcohol, group therapies, things like that. So that's taken up the lion's share of my time in the last few months. And right now it's kind of a waiting game on getting a couple pieces, getting approved on the funding, and still needing to meet with managed care, Medicaid providers and things like that. So it can be an accessible service to all people of all different financial constraints. So it's been a lot, dude, but I'm super excited to get back on the train with Fit Recovery, and I'm really excited to be taking on some new clients. I love being able to have the ability to extend beyond just my local reach here and being able to work with clients all over the world. What a phenomenal opportunity, man. It is really a blessing.
Oh yeah, it's really a miracle. It's really a miracle that, is for as many issues and kind of negative consequences that technology can create, the internet, binging Netflix and Pornhub, and scrolling through the smartphones and just never ending and getting distracted and escapism.
Yep.
For as many negative obstacles and challenges, it has so many positive benefits. And for my life situation and for your life situation, and probably the majority of people, it's immensely adding net wonder and miracles to their lives rather than a net, deficit to their overall life quality. And that's my favorite thing, is being able to work with people on the phone, on Zoom, on FaceTime, on Skype, depending on, where they are and what their preference is, and video or no video, depending on what their preference is. So that's super cool. And that project of kind of holistifying that outpatient program, right?
Yep.
Adding the biochemical optimization pillar, there needs to be so many more people undertaking that project. It's just like, imagine, and I know, Julia Ross and the rest of the people at the Alliance for Addiction Solutions, Chris and I are both professional members of it. It's a nonprofit organization. They've been trying to do this to mostly for inpatient centers, but also for outpatient, to help them to holistify using their amino acid charts and dosing protocols, nutritional therapies, and other parts of that biochemical pillar. I tried this one time many years ago. I met a guy that was the founder and director of an outpatient program here in San Diego County. And a mutual friend, or not a mutual friend, my friend that was on LinkedIn thought that we might have, ways to help each other. So she set us up, and I met him, and how can we help each other out here, And so I told him I could help him out by helping him to bring his recovery center to like the new age, where there's like supplements, gym, nutrition, and many other physical therapies to get the brain healing faster and to help with mental health, help with sleep, etc. And he thought it was a bunch of snake oil, Zach. He thought it was hogwash. After giving my little spiel on it, he was like, and this guy had like decades of sobriety, according to him. He was like, I've been sober for, I can't remember if it was 30 or 40 years. It was a long time. I've been sober for, 40 years, and I don't even take a multivitamin. You're telling me that people really need these things? And it was totally obvious to me that he had, if not narcissistic personality disorder, at least NPD symptoms, and almost guaranteed he had ADHD. He would cut me off. He was like not paying attention when I was talking. And I was like, dude, I could tell you a supplement protocol that could help a lot. No, nobody needs supplements or nutrition or diet to get decades of sobriety. Many people do it without, but it helps so much. It's not mandatory. All you need to survive is food, water, oxygen, and sleep. That's really
Right.
all you need, right?
So we're talking about quality of life versus
Exactly.
doing the bare minimum.
Yeah,
Like
technically,
grit your teeth and bear it, or
uh,
cultivate the best quality life possible, right?
exactly. And in early recovery, that is a much more vulnerable time. Whatever he had, 40 years of sobriety. At that point, you probably, I'd seriously doubt there's still much residue left from his alcohol use. But, people in early recovery, yes, homie, supplements can help, exercise can help. It was quite comical. All right, now the introductions have been underway. Let's get into this process of creating an exciting life, a pleasurable life, an enjoyable life without alcohol, without ethanol, without dehydrating yourself. It's a cellular dehydrator. Without, robbing your brain and body of nutritional uh, deficits. It robs your brain of nutrition. Dr. Ken Starr, when Chris Scott interviewed him, he said that alcohol causes a nutritional wasteland in the body, depletes you of B vitamins. It almost always leads to a severe or at least moderate NAD plus deficiency. Alcohol gets rid of all your NAD. NAD is anti-aging. It's DNA repair. It's epigenetic optimization. So you're drinking alcohol, cellular dehydrator. So instead of anti-aging, you're advancing aging, and it's making your brain need alcohol to produce those neurotransmitters, GABA, endorphin, dopamine. It's making your skin unhealthy, totally screwing up your sleep. So yes, life without alcohol can be enjoyable, pleasurable, and definitely not boring. Does that mean life's going to be easy? Absolutely not. Does that mean life's going to just keep getting better and better the longer that you're off alcohol? Absolutely not. But as cliche as it sounds, my most fun day partying and drinking, using drugs, as fun as some of those days and weeks were really, just today, not drinking any alcohol at all, just feeling super good, clear headed, drinking some iced coffee here. This is, and I've just been working today mostly. This is a better day. I can't imagine living like that anymore. I just can't imagine. It was okay for my 20s and early 30s, but that I found out that there's way more to life than that. So let's do the step-by-step process. Step one, identify what you desire. In this case, we're talking about creating a life without alcohol. It's both enjoyable and not boring. And so what is your goal? Life without alcohol. Step two, identify why you don't already have that goal. So the step one is know what you want. This can be used for other goals as well. You want a life without alcohol that is way better than your current life. Well, why don't you already have that? What are the actions, habits, behaviors, thoughts, and belief systems that have led to your current situation in life? If you get really detailed on this and really write out, why don't I have the life that I desire, and just let the pen or the keyboard roll, get really detailed, it is going to be so well worth the time. The time you invest in that is going to pay off big time. And then finally, step three, identify what you need to do to achieve the life that you want. In this case, life without alcohol. That's actually really awesome. That's actually way better than you could probably possibly imagine. Maybe you've had a taste of the good life without alcohol in the past and had things going great. I'm here to tell you that you can make it even better and better and better. You can really, really optimize your biochemistry, your brain health, your mood, your energy, your focus, your productivity, your sleep health, your bliss, your joy, your love, your compassion, your peace. I'm 42 now, and I'm really realizing that, at least for me, the older I get, the better pretty much everything gets. It's like you become so much, if you're doing it in certain ways, you can become more loving, more compassionate, wiser, better at discernment, just more curious about things. It's really a fun process after you get over the initial kind of difficult part, whether you have to detox or whether you just have to like quit binge drinking. There's many different situations. So that's the thing. That's the process that I came up with. And then we're going to go into Zach's really awesome kind of subheadings of this overall topic. What's your goal? Life without alcohol that kicks ass. Why don't you already have that life? What have been the habits, thoughts, all those things, the actions, decisions, belief systems that led you to this life that you would rather have the life without alcohol? And then 3, what do you have to do? What are some of the things you'd have to do to get that life going, to get some momentum towards that? And then what would you have to do to keep that life once you have, one version of it that you can later on have more and more iterations of optimization? So Zach, your first thing here is you're going to talk about the magic R word.
Yeah, routines. Yeah. So, oh man, like I my ADHD like fired off super hard on me today. But just now when you were talking about setting goals, because really before a person can decide what kind of routines they need to implement, they got to have those goals, right? So that something fired on me as far as Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Being proactive, taking ownership, but also beginning with the end in mind. So that, habit 2, begin with the end in mind. You got to know what you want. Like you wouldn't start building a house if you didn't have the blueprint. You don't just find a spot and then start, laying down fucking bricks and then seeing what happens. That would be the dumbest thing, right? You know where every element of this wants to be. And I think a big part of that too is understanding your values, right? You have to understand what you place value in. Is it I want to be financially independent? Is it I want to have a minimally stressful day or life? Is it I want to have meaningful relationships? Are relationships important? Are they of value to you? Right. And so there's I think there's a huge piece right there that certainly I would never want to just mull over. Why don't, or what is it exactly that you want? And that should really, really encompass some serious introspection, sitting down in a nice, quiet place. And, I certainly don't think that it has to be an exhaustive thing right away. It's like you sit down and maybe it's you take 15 minutes here right now. I'm taking 15 minutes just to think, what do I want? And that piece right there is going to help you decide and identify. When you get to step 3 and you identify, how do I get what I want? The framework that we're going to talk about is all going to be relevant to what do you want, because it's subjective, right? So the same routines aren't going to be the same for everybody, and different, pro-social connections look different for everybody. Not everybody's going to want to go do a spin class or yoga, or maybe not everybody goes to church and meets people there. Maybe not everybody goes to AA or NA or Smart Recovery. Maybe not everybody's on social media. So and then not everybody has the same passions. Not everybody has the same brand, or not everybody cares for the same brand of personal growth and development. All those four concepts are what we're going to talk, or what we're going to spend, I guess, the most quantitative time talking about. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on how do you come up with what's your routine for deciding what it is that you want?
Something that I did kind of intuitively for many years, but then I learned a cool way to discuss it, to communicate about it, to think about it, that I learned from Mel Robbins. Not her newest book, but I believe it was her book before that. It wasn't a book. I think it was an Audible only, and where she was like coaching people. I forget the title of it, but Mel Robbins, she is awesome. And
Just phenomenal.
I've read one book of hers, listened to another. The way I learned about her was she was at a seminar I went to as a guest. She was the keynote speaker, actually. And this was when she was at the height of her massively hectic, crazy. She was the number one most booked and highest paid speaker, even out of males, out of everybody in the world for a while. When she was peaking, then she got burned out, stopped speaking, and now she's been like hammering out amazing books. There's the Mel Robbins show.
Yeah, High Five Habit. High Five Habit's phenomenal. I just got done with
Habits.
That one.
Yep, that's the book that I had. Then, gosh, I forget the coaching one. It was like an Audible, something about overcoming fears or something. But
yeah,
she was
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nice.
Yes. Like, it's talking about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep. Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's what her keynote speech was all about. I was like standing ovation. The whole place, thousands of people. There was 13,000 people somewhere around there at the seminar. And she had like this dress on, and she had like sneakers, like running shoes and a dress. It's just totally, she's very unique. But the way she says, the question you asked was like, well, how do people even find that, right? She says to follow what gives you energy. Try many different things out, right? Learn about something new. Go do something new. These types of experiments. And what you're doing is you're finding what lights you up. What lights you up and gives you energy. And then that's, I was already doing that intuitively back then. Nowadays, I only do things for as much as I can that light me up and give me energy. Right now, you said you're reading Essentialism for the second time. I've only read it once, but after reading it once, I totally became not a minimalist, because, I'm not a minimalist. I like things, but now I'm an essentialist. Anything that's not essential for the most part is not a part of my work or my work goals or my apartment or my activities or my habits. I used to want a big, huge mansion, Zach. I used to want to be this mega millionaire. I wanted a mansion, wanted super nice clothes, and I wanted to just be lots of nice vehicles. I wanted a place right on the ocean in front of a great surf break. I wanted to be like recognized in the field of addiction. I wanted to be like out there, like in people, knowing who I was. And so what people should know is that over the years, maybe what you value and what lights you up and gives you energy changes. And that it pretty much should be like that, because that's what growth is about. So, that's what I would answer to your question is try different things out. Like you said, some people, not every AA is not for everybody. Smart recovery is not for everybody. Church isn't. The only way people are going to know what is for them and what isn't for them is if they try something out, or at least learn about it and see if it starts lighting them up. See if it starts giving them energy.
Yeah. I would argue even that it's worth trying something more than once, especially if we're going to relate, if we tie this back into early recovery, from a physiological standpoint, emotional, mental, during acute and post-acute withdrawal from alcohol or other substances, we're going to have some dopamine deficiencies, right? So the things that we're going to actively want to pursue might not feel, they're not going to be as loud, right? Internally, we're not going to feel that intrinsic motivation toward things like we would when our brain's all cleared up and it's starting to heal, when our dopamine threshold comes back down and more organic things that we seek reward from start to feel stronger, right? Because I think it was the last podcast we were talking about, or maybe it was the first one. We were talking about, having to accept that nothing is going to feel as strongly as drinking or drugging, because from a pharmacological sense, it's not possible for the brain to have that much dopamine from things that are organic in life, right? From emotional connections or sex or good food, or you're not going to get the high feelings that you do, or you're not even going to feel the sense of motivation to pursue those things, because we don't get that kind of dopamine from things that naturally occur in our daily living. So I would argue that trying things more than once, because maybe in early recovery you try and you try to experience something and it's anhedonic for you. You're in an anhedonic state, so nothing feels good, right? Nothing feels pleasurable or motivating. So so I think that that's definitely worth noting, is your brain is going to trick you in early stages of recovery, because from a neurobiological standpoint, you're not where you're going to be several months from now. So maybe if you don't like something, maybe give it two times, 3 times, try, does that make sense? I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it makes perfect sense to me. I'm listening to, I had a free credit recently, maybe about a week and a half ago, on Audible, my monthly free credit. And I got the book Dopamine Nation by Dr. Ann Lemke. I might be getting her last name wrong, but Dopamine Reset. I found out about her from Andrew Huberman, Dr. Huberman,
Love
and his Huberman Labs. Yeah, his podcast on YouTube is great. And I saw her podcast with him and I was like, this is cool. Her Audible, while so far I'm only on chapter 4, most of it's like really basic beginner dopamine stuff, lots of review. Yeah. But the way she's creating metaphors and analogies is so beautiful, because even though I know like the mechanisms of action of dopamine, the pain, pleasure, balance, drug or alcohol or compulsive behavior, cold turkey withdrawal to where the dopamine's gone. And you could even have a dopamine at a level of 0, and depending on the substance, like taking a hit of really good methamphetamine. I learned this from the book. Lots of cool statistics. Taking a hit of good methamphetamine is the same dopamine you'd get from 10 orgasms during such sexual intercourse. Lots of cool stories from the past about like how heroin was developed. Like I knew that, but there's certain things that I know a lot about, but then she's adding more to my knowledge. The way she talks about the pain pleasure balance, talking about how there's like little gremlins camping out. Highly recommend the book so far, from what I know, up to chapter 4. It's a really good beginner's book for people that don't know much about alcohol addiction, drug addiction, substance use disorder, gambling addiction, all these types of things. For people that don't know, like at least the basics on dopamine, the reward pathways, the neural circuitry, this is a great book because it's not so heavy dense in the neuroscience. It's really, really basic neuroscience, at least so far. And it's understandable the way she gives really good metaphors and analogies to help you kind of go, oh, now I understand how that works. Because when she's talking about neurotransmitters and synaptic clefts and, all these different things that are involved in neurotransmission and the pain pleasure balance, the amygdala, basal ganglia, giving real world life examples that you can visualize and you go, oh, that's how it works. Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Good stuff.
So
what about you think that's adequate for step 1? How do I identify what I want?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So step 2, why don't I have what I want, right?
Yeah. Why don't I have what I want? So if I was going to do this exercise, how I would do it, and this is customizable too, is I would write down what's my dream life, and I'd get as detailed as possible and just have that as a rough draft. Even if it's a paragraph, write something down. And then step 2, I'd be like, okay, what's the main reasons I don't already have that life? I'd do at least a paragraph. I'd probably write a page or 2, but even if you just write a paragraph on your dream life, alcohol-free, and why you don't have that, what have been the main things that you've done, said, decided, believed, thought that are have put you in the position that you're in today when your current lifestyle and situation. So I'd write those out. And then 3, identify what you need to do to achieve the life. So you don't already have what you want. What would you need to do to get what you want? One of those is routines. Really quick, I don't want to confuse people, but I just thought of 2 more steps. Step 4, are you willing to pay the price to do the things that you need to do to get that life going? Are you willing to pay the price, pay the piper? Step 5, will you start paying the price now? Routines. God, routines is great. Another cool word for that is rituals. I love how Tony Robbins talks about rituals. I learned so much from him on routines and rituals. Those really are, your life is your routines.
Sure. And that's funny you mentioned Tony Robbins. I was thinking as far as language, like how we talk to ourselves. So it's like when you're asking, why don't I have what it is that I want, and maybe even a better way to ask that question is, how do I get it? Right. So, I mean, I guess, so we're kind of getting into, into the step 3 right there, but so in keeping it with alcohol, so how would you come up with, why isn't, so let's say, just for simplicity's sake, I don't have the life that I want because I'm a chronic user of alcohol or some other substance, right? Maybe maybe even identifying, because the substance use, as problematic as it is, the substance use, we've been using it as a solution for something, right? It's not the problem. It's a solution. It's a solution to whatever it is we're trying to enhance or escape from, right? So those are some notes I made earlier before we started talking, is, why do people drink? And I had, to enhance perceived feelings of enjoyment, right? Like, yeah, this is fun, but it could be better if, I tie one on with it, right? Or to escape pain, whether that's physical or emotional pain. Even part of that being anxiety. Even as a social lubricant, I'm sorry if you can hear this in the background. I think my fiance and kid are fighting about Mario Brothers, but social lubricant, I feel like I can talk more when I'm drinking. So it's like identifying what it is that you get out of it. What are you getting out of the drinking or the drugging? Because obviously it's going to create problems to being the best version of yourself, but it's obviously also been a solution to something. Maybe you don't feel like maybe you're a really insecure person. Maybe it's really hard for you to be in social settings. Maybe you have a lot of anxiety. Alcohol's a great way to get rid of your anxiety while you're drinking it, right? I mean, there's no way to dispute that. It's going to increase GABA. It's going to sedate you. It's going to lower inhibitions. That's what it does. So, but even this isn't everybody, I guess, but some people just start drinking because it's a social pressure. Like it's just a normal part of society. I mean, alcohol is such a normalized part of American and certainly other cultures around the world of daily living, right? So I guess what I was getting to is in step 2 is if you've come to the conclusion and you've made the decision that alcohol, for everything it gives you, you've done some cost benefit analysis, and it's costing you a lot more to use that as the solution than it is to deal with whatever the underlying problems are. So what are the real problems why you don't live the life you want? Because maybe it's because maybe it's because you're undisciplined. You haven't learned how to be disciplined. Maybe it's a low distress tolerance, a low pain tolerance of how, maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's a trauma that you haven't dealt with, right? So but it's easy enough to go, yeah, the only reason I don't have what I want because I'm a drunk, or I'm a junkie, or whatever the terrible language is that you tell yourself, right? You beat yourself up, victimize yourself. I don't have what I want because, I'm doing these drugs. Well, you're doing those drugs to deal with another problem. So what are those problems? What are those reasons why you don't have what you want?
Getting
right?
to the root,
Yeah.
So like if you imagine a tree, I see where you're going with this. I think let's stay on this for a bit. If you imagine a tree, at the top of that tree, the branches and leaves that are coming out, that's the symptoms, that's the behaviors, whether it's overconsumption of alcohol or drugs or, even things like procrastination. So a lot of times people will treat, if those leaves are messed up, people are treating the trees, the leaves. So it's like, thus the symptoms. Here, let's just slap a medication on this, which can work great. I'm a huge proponent of medication-assisted treatments, but that's probably not getting to the root. Let's do some psychotherapy. Well, maybe that gets the root, maybe it doesn't. So for each person, they're going to have a constellation of symptoms. In this case, overconsumption of alcohol. What are the reasons they're doing that? So you really have to go down and down and down below the ground into the deep roots. It's manifesting from the roots and growing upward. With me, I think it was a combination of many different things. Probably the main root for me was probably lots of childhood trauma and lots of sensitivity. That was pretty much, you add those two together, just being a really sensitive kid growing up, and person in general, and having lots of trauma growing up, that, that's probably what I was covering up. So it took, years and years to work through all that stuff. That's a huge one for a lot of people. That's it. The root is self-medicating mental health disorders or trauma, but it's not the root for everyone. For other people, it's different. So finding that root. Another thing before I forget, I wanted to mention, when you were talking about routines and, giving up alcohol, not giving it up, replacing alcohol. So certain benefits it's giving them. Well, before somebody even quits and makes a stride towards recovery in their alcohol-free life, here's another exercise. Write down the benefits that you perceive from alcohol and the reasons that you think you're drinking, mostly the benefits, right? Then write a list of what are healthier ways that I could get these same benefits, that I can do them alcohol free. So like, for example, with alcohol as a social lubricant, what are other ways that you could, feel more confident and at ease, comfortable in your own skin socially, or, work in the workplace, with family, whatever, with people that wouldn't take alcohol. If alcohol is anxiety mechanism, write down a list of 10 or more things of alternative ways that could possibly help to deal with anxiety. Usually, if people do quit drinking, if they haven't figured out and adopted and fostered and cultivated new ways of getting those same benefits that alcohol was giving them, and thus the reason for them using it, it usually doesn't stick, right, Zach? Usually it's like,
Absolutely.
oh, well, I'm still anxious, or shit, where I'm still feel awkward socially, or crap, I still have all this trauma that's, bubbling up. If alcohol is the only solution or one of the only solutions, we're going to keep choosing that solution most likely. So we have to find other solutions, and for each person, it's like baking a cake, different ingredients for the, each person's recovery cake or recovery jigsaw puzzle, putting all the pieces together. Each person's a different puzzle.
Yeah. And understanding that, when we stop using, because like we've already talked about, we were using that thing for a reason. We were using that as a tangible solution to some realized or maybe even unrealized problematic element in our life. We're getting something out of the use, or we wouldn't keep doing it. People don't use drugs because they suck. So it's like, but eliminating and this is I think this is where a lot of people, including myself at times, have gotten extremely frustrated with the recovery process. I stopped using, so my life should get better. I should feel better, right? No, fuck no. Excuse my language, but no, like you just gave yourself space to learn how to feel better. When you stopped using, you just took away the one thing that you knew how. So the only thing you can do is deal with the pain and learn some more solution focused, long-term way to cope, right? The only thing that, how many times do you hear that in recovery jargon? Putting down the drugs, the easy part. It's learning how to live life on life's terms. And so to clearly define that, when you stop using, you're giving yourself the space and the opportunity to get better. And that requires the work, the uncomfortable work of surrendering to the process of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and giving yourself the time and having the open mind to learn what you need to learn, like what you're talking about, different ways to feel less anxious. And I guarantee that none of them are going to work as fucking fast as alcohol. I guarantee it. But they're not going to come with the consequences of that either. So obviously, really what we're talking about now is the pig, right? The problem of immediate gratification. So I don't know, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, the pig. Hyperbolic discounting. I totally understand why so many people have not been able to, create an alcohol-free, enjoyable life. It's not boring, and that they don't miss alcohol. It's a moot substance. Because the initial part for most people, there's this initial, so for some people it's a week, for some people it's 2 weeks, for some it's a month or longer. There's so many different timelines depending on their severity and their resources they can use to get healthier. But there's this initial phase of discomfort. We'll just use the word discomfort. When you're used to drinking alcohol to get rid of whatever the discomfort is. It might be a discomfort from GABA deficiency. It might be a discomfort from a stressful day at work. It might be a discomfort from a unhealthy, argumentative, combative relationship. It might be the discomfort from, the weather just being horrible and you're going through seasonal affective disorder. So all these different types of discomfort: mental, physical, spiritual, emotional discomfort, relationship discomfort, work discomfort, financial discomfort, if your finances aren't good, procrastination, stress, discomfort. There's just seems to be a never-ending armada of discomforts that we are often bombarded with.
Yeah.
And like you said, alcohol's fast. It gets through, passes your lips, goes down your throat, rapidly into your blood and into your brain and into the GABA receptors. And then it's all of a sudden, you get that GABA induction, that endorphin release, get that dopamine surge. And all of a sudden, what was discomfort before, maybe 2 or 3 sips into it, it's just such a noticeable relief of that discomfort. Maybe not all the way, but substantially, significantly can reduce rapidly all forms of discomfort for the most part. And then, alcohol is really, really quick, and it's all wired up in our brain too. It's like, our brains are designed for that, to make it so most of the stuff we do throughout the day, we don't have to consciously think about. Driving, brushing our teeth, our shower routine, everything. That's how the brain saves energy for other functions. And so a lot of people just get stuck in the autopilot and the reactivity, just having the same life, the same feelings, the same thought processes, the same beliefs, the same things that they're eating, the same things that they're watching day in, day out, because it's easy to get into that, kind of self-hypnosis of life. We all do it to certain extents. And with alcohol, then there's that added element too, where it's actually really changing the brain. So routines are epic. A couple of good books I'll recommend. Number 1, Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Great book.
Number 2, Master Your Time, Master Your Life by Brian Tracy. Yeah, those are probably my top 2 books on like routines and habits. Got any recommendations for routines before I move on to the next category?
Man, it's as far as books go, I guess the 5 a.m. club. That's a great one too. Like I guess it really depends on what you define, and where do you start with routines? That could be an entire podcast all by itself, is where to start with implementing routine strategies and how habit stacking works and all of that kind of thing, But I think on another one, man, make your bed.
Yeah,
the book, Make Your Bed, because and I get clients all the time. It's like I have a really hard time developing. Start with something really small. How hard is it? I'm not even telling you to get up at the same time yet every day. I'm not telling you get up at 5 a.m. I think getting up early is an extremely powerful thing to do for anybody, but we're not even there yet. Just whenever you do decide to get up, before you walk out of the bedroom, make your fucking bed. Just do that, and do it every day. Start check. Maybe you got a notepad there on your nightstand or something. You track. Just start keeping tally marks and how many days in a row you can go with making your bed. Start with that little thing, and I guarantee it's going to change how you look at implementing routines. But then you got people like Ed Milet, who talks a lot about, he's a so great podcast, Ed Milet show. His whole leadership program of Max Out. But something that comes to mind is, if you can control how you start your day, and if you can control how you end your day, everything in between is going to be a lot more manageable. It's not that you won't ever have crisis or you won't ever have things that come up, but if you can develop a really solid routine around your morning and a really solid routine around your evening, and things that help you feel really good, and you stick to that as often as possible. You get people like Jordan Peterson or Andrew Huberman that talk about, if you can hit that 60 or 70% of the time, you're doing better than most people, right? Routines, and from somebody that has a severe alcohol use disorder and addictive, I follow the dopamine for sure, and I was diagnosed with ADHD as a young child, and I left it. It was treated for a couple years in my childhood, but then went severely untreated for most of my life. I'm just now in the last few years doing things to, without stimulants, doing things to mitigate and teach myself how to manage my ADHD, avoiding certain types of foods, and taking certain kinds of supplements, doing certain kind of behavioral practices. But routines are what keep me sane. And I was just having this conversation the other day. Yeah, you're good. The biggest, one of the biggest things that trigger that old neural pathway that makes me want to go have a drink is uncertainty in my day. And what I mean is, like, if I have a gap in time where I didn't schedule something, I didn't have a task to pull into my day or somebody to meet with, if I have this open window of time, this chunk of time, the first thing that pops into my mind is you just get plastered. Like, go ahead, or go have a drink. Go have a drink, because for some reason that uncertainty with what am I to do with this 2 or 3 hours is the most gut-wrenching, anxious feeling. It's like falling down a hole, like, and I immediately want to escape that feeling. And the, I mean, you can call it boredom or uncertainty, whatever, but that has been, bar none, the biggest trigger that I've ever had or ever experienced, and to make me go back into old habits or old feelings, to want to drink, is just having open chunks of time in my day, So at this point, routines look to me like you can break your day down into hour by hour by hour. And it doesn't mean that you're this powerhouse of productivity from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed. It means that you're intentional with how you spend your time, where you're spending your time, who you're spending it with, and what you're doing. It's certainly okay to set up recreational time or time to relax or time to space the fuck out with intention, right? I'm going to take this hour right here and I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to sit here and watch fucking paint dry, or I'm going to catch up on a TV show, or I'm going to play some video games, or I'm going to take a nap, whatever. But the idea is that you're not leaving gaps in time where your brain has that limbic friction of going into, there's nothing to do, might as well get fucked up, or I don't know what to do. That's the worst, is I don't know what to do. Right. So that's my 2 cents on routines.
Yeah, in a lot of respects, I'm so much like that. There was a few weeks, probably like 3 weeks, right before, a couple weeks before Christmas, and then maybe it was like just before Christmas, and then a few weeks after Christmas. There was this duration of time, this window, where it was not sunny whatsoever. And not only was it not sunny, it was, chilly for San Diego, California, which is not cold, but gray, really gray, dark early, and really gray skies. My energy, and plus I had family visiting for Christmas and New Year's, and my daughter had 2 weeks off of school, so she was home all the time. And then she stayed home an additional week when the kids all went back to school because she was sick. So she was home for 3 weeks. I had family in town for almost a week. It was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And that, between that and then all this horrible no sunshine weather, and I like get my energy and mood from the sunshine and sleep. Sunshine for me is good energy, good mood, good sleep. When it's like a week or longer, or even sometimes a few days without any sunshine, for whatever reason, like when I take my vitamin D3 supplements, even with K2, they just don't seem to work a fraction of as good as vitamin S, vitamin sunshine. So between all those kind of all those different variables, oh man, I went through this rut, this anti-routine duration of life, and it sucked. I got through it well. Like I didn't become addicted to things again, but I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't even like binge eating, but I was, oh man, watching shows because I just couldn't get out of bed. I was so tired. I was working still, but I was doing a lot less work than usual. I was nowhere near as motivated to work. And it was just a hard patch to get through. Then we got a bunch of sunshine. It was the New Year energy came in to the mix, and like really good sunshine for several days in a row, maybe 6 days in a row. And I was out there soaking it up. Yeah. And ever since then, for most days, most of the time since then, now we're, getting into February. Yeah, man, back to writing my whiteboard, back to making my bed, back to like regular cleaning and organizing. And my keystone habit that sets off all those other habits for organization, for anti-ADHD, for, feeling good about my life, for mental health, for energy, for anti-procrastination, for making progress toward, getting your responsibilities done, at least most of them, and then also having fun. I have to take a shower. Well, I don't have to, but it's my day's much more effective at getting what I want to get done and enjoying it if I take a shower, end with a couple minutes, or sometimes only 30 seconds, like in the winter time right now. I end with freezing cold water for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. In summertime, it could be 2 to 5 minutes, depending. So when I take a shower and end with freezing cold water, come out, put my robe on, put some trance music on or put some other music on, I don't have to think about anything then. I automatically, because I'm energized with the norepinephrine, it boosts your beta endorphins and norepinephrine. So you've got like a stimulatory and this pain killing endogenous molecules being released from that cold water. I immediately go over, turn music on, start making my bed, erase the whiteboard, and then start writing. Then I go sit on my bed or the couch with my coffee, and I'll write in my journal. Then I'll write in my planner. Nowadays, I keep my planner face open on a new little kind of small desk I have right here. So it's like always in my face. I can't miss it. So then I transfer all those things from my planner. I also write them up on my whiteboard. So now I've got them in two places, big, huge on the whiteboard and right here written down. And then I'm just working from the whiteboard and the planner the rest of the day. Therefore, by starting the morning off with that shower and in cold water, get in my robe, it sets off all those things: music, make bed, coffee, journal, written planner, or notebook planner, whiteboard planner, the same exact stuff I write on the whiteboard. Start taking supplements, then all of a sudden I've got this checklist, two checklists. They're identical, but they're in two spots. Now, everything that I do, I get to check off twice, and I do it in different creative, colorful, artistic ways. I do it differently in the planner than I do on the whiteboard. So I'm like, that's extra dopamine boost. It is.
Yeah.
Just crossing it off, checking it off. And here I fell in a triangle and it's just like, I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, it's kind of almost feels like cheating, but it's a hack that I just thought of. It's a little bit of extra work, of course, but I get more dopamine boosts, and that makes me happier and more productive.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Oh, I was going to mention real quick too. I've been taking this Neurovi. This is a caffeine-free nootropic drink blend. This is a palm berry flavor, 20 packets. Supports the brain's cellular fuel systems, supports gut health and strengthening of the brain-gut connection, increases response time, and decreases cognitive inhibition in memory trials. This stuff is, Neurovi gives you the power to optimize your mental capacity and performance by supporting the systems that influence your cognitive health. Immediate focus, concentration, short-term accuracy, reasoning, long-term memory learning. 2 packets a day, 1 in the morning, 1 midday. The problem is it's damn expensive, so I can't afford it all the time. So when I have it, I really notice the mood, the productivity, the pleasurable feelings and mood states. But this little box right here is like around $80 plus tax and shipping. So I think it works out to about $4 a packet. Is that right?
Yeah.
$3.50, $4. Yeah, it's not cheap stuff, and they're pretty small packets too. So, but yeah, like having strategies for other people. They're on low dose Adderall to get rid of their ADHD type symptoms. Other people, they're drinking like green tea with maybe citicoline in the Cognizant brand. So like people can figure out and experiment with supplements, with nootropics, with cold showers, there's breathing exercises, so many different things to start off your day. A book I'll recommend now is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And you don't even have to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. It's just when you wake up in the morning. I think according to him in the book, preferably by 8 a.m. I could be wrong, but preferably sometime in the actual morning. And then starting your morning off with these rituals, customizing your morning with a set of rituals that's an orderly sequence, and thus gearing your day to be better than if you didn't do something like that in the morning. If you just kind of woke up and like, all right, let's just start going. I don't have any rhyme or reason, or you have a morning routine, but it's not something that you consciously, intentionally created, but it's just a reactionary morning routine that has become bad habits.
Mm. Yeah, I think.
Hold on real quick. I'll edit this part out. My kid just got home.
Yeah.
Come in. Hold on, I have to put the bed away. I told your grandma that I was doing a podcast. Okay, well, I told you. Well, I'll probably be done podcasting in a little bit here if you just keep it down. That was cool. You want to meet my friend Zach that I'm talking with on the podcast? No. All right, I'm good, Zach. I'm just gonna take a leak now.
Yeah, no worries.
Take a pee break if you got it. If you got to.
Sure thing. We call them a potty break.
Yeah, that was good, huh? That was a long week. That was like a racehorse.
This is going to end up being a two-parter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, and so moving along here, you wrote down, Zach, pro-social connections. So we've talked about routines a lot.
Yeah,
Super important. We've provided some of our favorite resources. Now, pro-social connections. That was something that I had in early recovery. I had my my AA sponsor. I wasn't doing AA after like 30 days. I stopped going, but I went to school with him. And so we were together a lot. We were in the same classes and we would go surf and we'd hang out. So he was a great influence. My parents were sober. I had, family members that lived close that were sober, and I had some other sober friends too. And that was very helpful for me. I quit hanging out with all my drinking buddies and drug using buddies. I just avoided them for the most part, like they were the plague. As hard as that was at the beginning,
yeah,
it did get easier and easier. And ultimately, had I not ever done that, I would have kept bringing myself back to drugs and alcohol simply by hanging out with them. That's why I kept slipping and relapsing after periods of sobriety and recovery all throughout my 20s and early 30s, is because I just wasn't able to cut my ties with those people. Like, they were the only friends I had. I didn't want to go meet new friends. I didn't want to, develop a new sober social support group. Like, I didn't want to do that, but I finally did. And that's ultimately what I had to do, really.
Yeah, I think that's that's super important to make that connection is, it's really, there is this time, this period of time. It took me a long time to figure that out, that, it's one thing to not demonize alcohol or substance use, or even the fact that other people use it. I mean, most of my family are reasonably social drinkers and things like that. So like holiday events, things like that, there's alcohol there. And so, but I do think early on, making that connection, that it is a very lonely feeling when you make that realization that it's like, if I keep hanging around the same people doing the same things, I will gravitate toward that behavior, because it's that adage of, you're the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? So if everybody that you hang out with is drinking and partying and living the same lifestyle that you're trying to get away from, it seems intuitive enough that you would have to spend less time with those people. And as we get older, it's definitely harder to make new friends, especially when we're feeling low, or when we've used alcohol as a social lubricant, right? So, but creating that space, or finding those new connections to tap into, is a really, really strong piece. And that, I think that looks different for everybody. For some people, it's church. For some, I think this is worth adding, is service, acts of service in the recovery process. So being able to volunteer your time, that's a really phenomenal way to meet people, to meet people that are not obsessed with themselves, not self-obsessed and self-centered, right? Because when we spend all of our time pursuing, using, and recovering from substance use or alcohol use, even if we're spending time with other people, they're concerned about that too, right? They're not concerned about you or your feelings or what they can do for you. When I went to the bar, my concern number one, yes, I was social. Yes, I was having a good time with other people. But my first concern was getting my drink and keeping my drinks coming. And then we can talk, right? Mm-hmm. Like then we can be social. Mm-hmm. But it's this thing: drink me first, then you, me first, then you, me first, mm-hmm. then you. And when we create pro-social activities, it's the other way. I'm concerning myself with other people. I'm connecting on a real organic level that is truly present, instead of concerning myself with some mind-altering substance prior to that connection. And then there's the whole idea that connection is not even real. When you're in an altered state of mind, that connection, or that perceived experience that you're having with that person is not, it's not legitimate. It's not reality. It's not, the same people that I would sit and drink and have all these crazy conversations, or be passing plates of cocaine around with, we'd be talking about all kinds of like, whoa, type of mind-blowing shit. If I saw them at the grocery store the next day, I might wave, but I'm not having the conversation with you, or like, hey, how's your mom doing, or, whatever. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm there to get groceries. And the only time I connect with you is when I'm tanked. Like, it's, I know that's kind of, side, I took a side road there, but I guess the thing is pro-social connections have to be, and as uncomfortable as it may be to initiate, those pro-social connections, places you can go with like-minded individuals. That's the one thing with AA and NA, even knowing, the dogma of it, or the ideology, the steps and principles and all that. Maybe those are difficult for me to abide, or agree with, but the fellowship is real, right? The fellowship is real. Being around sober people that are just trying to be sober like you, and everybody's there to help everybody. At least that's, the overarching goal. But, that might be different from meeting to meeting, but, but you get the idea is that you're developing this core group of people that are trying to live life differently, and that makes a huge impact because we're social creatures. We are tribal, right? We need other people. I mean, we have to feel a sense of belonging, and that's the one, and that's not the one thing, but that is a major piece that we take away as when, and I realize there's solitary drinkers, and I know you guys just, you and Chris just covered that, but like, for a lot of people, there's a huge social element to drinking. I didn't like drinking at home alone. I wanted to go out and be around other people. I wanted to commiserate, right? And that's that connection is one of the first things to leave when we get sober, because now we feel alone. Now we feel disconnected, and that's like Johann Jari says, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And we have to be able to connect. And so that's when I say pro-social connections, pro-social activities, church groups. I'm a smart recovery advocate. That's my group now. I've probably been to 3 I've been snowed in for the last 2 days. I've probably went to 4 meetings in the last 2 days just to connect with other people other than my clients. Right. I mean, it's, I do it for me. And it's such a meaningful piece to the recovery process. You have to be able to start thinking about other people and ways that you can connect with other people and tie yourself into a community. Yeah.
That's where we get the most growth too. The most opportunities for growth and for healing and balancing ourselves, for learning. It comes from mirrors, other selves, other people that act as mirrors. And through that, if someone's a hermit their whole life compared to somebody that has lots of relationships throughout their life, the person with all the relationships they built and maybe faded away and built new ones, that person is going to have so much more growth and diversity of experience than a hermit. I'm really glad you started to talk about the self-serving, self-centered, self-seeking stuff too. There's really 2 consciousness polarities here we have on Earth and humanity. There's people that are, and it's a spectrum. So if you imagine a horizontal spectrum, on one side of the spectrum is service to others. I think of Jesus Christ as probably the epitome of being totally on the very depth of that, the very edge of that spectrum, service to others. Jesus was all about service to others. Moving to the opposite side of that spectrum to the very end, I think of Genghis Khan. He's probably like the epitome, and, not necessarily Hitler, because Hitler was a lot of the stuff he really believed he was helping other people. It was service to others, at least in his own mind.
Sure.
But Genghis Khan was just all about himself. Just, man, if you study that guy's history, which you're nodding your head, I assume you have at least somewhat, service to self. You look at certain politicians and, elites and globalists out there, you can just tell they are super service to self. Mother Teresa, she was very, very mostly service to others. Nelson Mandela, service to others. A lot of people have made that choice consciously. Some have made it unconsciously, whether they're going to be service to others based life or service to self. That's not to say that you don't also serve yourself. It's just that you are very, very focused and clear about, I want to help others.
Yeah.
Most of humanity, I believe, falls not on the service to self or service to others side, but in this deep kind of this deep, long stretch of kind of in between, somewhere in between. A couple of decisions for, serving myself. I'm going to pull one over on this person so I can get the advantage. And then some here and there, some service to others. So it's this huge middle ground between those two polarities. And a lot of, I find that when I consciously decided to make my life about service to others, my professional life at least, my life got way, 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 way better. And it had so much more purpose and meaning. Before I had made that choice, I was still in my addiction, and I was so service to self, and I pretty much had consciously chose that. Yeah, I did some nice things for others sometimes, but I was all about myself, man. How can I make money? How can I get better fit and better looking? How can I, have the best, most comfortable life possible? How can I get all the girls? How can I get the mansion and the cars? Me, mine, I, me, mine. Then when I switched to thee, thine, service to others, it just made everything better. Before I was nihilistic, service to self. Now I have, purpose, service to others. And yes, of course, I still serve myself. If my well is not full, topped off, or if I don't have my inner well of water, whatever you want to call it, if my well is not filled up enough, how the hell am I going to be any good to serving others?
Yeah.
It's going to be
Amen.
a disservice to them and to myself. So it's like, fill your own well first. And the more you optimize that well through your routines, your pro-social connections, your habits, all these things we're talking about, staying off alcohol and other, behaviors that lead to debilitation of life, then the more effective I can help others, the more energy I have to help others. So I love this topic.
Yep.
I was against it for a long time. Like, I don't need anybody, man. But I've slowly developed wisdom around this topic.
Can't be the center of your own universe, and I think through that concept of, and pro-social connections are a way to tap into this. But I really do think that if someone hasn't discovered their purpose or their identity, like what, why are they here, type of, what is their main focus of contribution, getting involved with others is the way to find that. And something else that just rang out to me was something that my pastor said. And he was talking about, so we're talking about, obviously you can't give what you don't have, right? So self-care is super important. And there is a dichotomy between self-care and self-centeredness, right? But what he was telling me, and this comes back to the routines and establishing routines. So discipline is an act of love. If I can put myself, if I can have the disciplines to be the best version of myself, it means that everybody else, God and everyone else, gets the best version of me too. So if I'm disciplined and I'm able to overcome the wantings of the flesh, so to speak, and my spirit can be louder than my flesh, that's an act of love. I'm telling everybody else in my world that I love them more than I love me, because what I want right now isn't as important as how I contribute to the world around me, right? And you can tie that back into, I want to drink right now, but I know I won't be worth a shit to anybody else, including myself, if I do that. Yes, I'm uncomfortable right now, and this hurts, but this is temporary, and I'm here for a much bigger person. My contribution to the world I live in is important, and it's so much more important than how I feel at this very moment. So discipline is an act of love. Impulsivity is an act of selfishness. Impulsivity is self-centered. That's saying I love me more than I love you right now. And there's certainly a need for self-love, but contributing, the way we contribute to the world around us makes us feel so much better about ourselves. Right. So I guess the overarching concept of getting into pro-social connections is stop making you the center of your own fucking universe, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to learn after, years and years, decades and decades, or a whole lifetime thus far of, and it usually comes from fear, lack consciousness, fear, uncertainty, like, oh, I gotta make sure I'm okay. I gotta make sure that I'm comfortable. And but yeah, it's two of my favorite Tony Robbins quotes are, it's not about me, it's about we, and the secret to living is giving.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just, when you help other people, you get a bigger dopamine and oxytocin boost than they do. Like when you say, for instance, you see somebody that's homeless and has a money sign for food, and they got like a little dog and they just look really hungry and skinny and frail and beaten down. If you give that person like $100 bill, say, it is going to make them so stoked, but it makes you even more stoked. You're like, wow, that felt through those pro-social connections and mirror neurons too. We feel what they're feeling, and maybe even more so in many situations. So it's like serving others also serves ourselves. That's the genius and the mathematics behind it, or the science behind it, is by serving others, you're also serving yourself, because, for whatever reason, that's just how we're created. That's just how we evolved, is when we do serve other people like that, even if we're not, contributing to them in any other way than just by being ourselves, and just being the best version of ourselves. That's a form of contribution, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Just really working on yourself is also service to others. It's service to the vibration of humanity, to the collective unconscious, to the vibration of Mother Earth, by, just transcending the levels of consciousness out of guilt and shame and fear and anger, and into, pride, and then into courage and willingness, acceptance, love and peace, tranquility. And the higher you go on that, the more your, frequency affects the people that you're around. And even, if you're coaching them long distance, or even talking to a relative or friend long distance, even though they're not in physical proximity to you, they may be 3,000 or more miles away, but your communication, your throat chakra carries that, and it affects them in a positive way. And then, since they're in a better mood and they're affected, they're going to affect other people positively. And it's this gigantic worldwide butterfly effect of, evolving humanity.
Absolutely. So I think some, for the people listening, the pro-social connections could include anything in terms of mutual self-help groups. So that would be AA, NA, Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery. It could be your church. It could be a local soup kitchen or a homeless shelter. It could be maybe you go join a gym and do some group exercises, right? Orange Theory or some kind of go. Chris told me I should join a boxing gym. I've been trying to find new ways to do cardio because I hate cardio. He's like, man, but it makes sense. It makes sense. And then right there though, I'm thinking, okay, that I'm having human contact with this person. Yeah, we're sparring or we're fighting, but like there's, you get up and you shake hands afterward, right? That's not something. Anytime I've been in a fight, there was no shaking hands afterward. So that's that's a really interesting concept to me too. But what other, can you think of any other ways or other type of pro-social activities that would be a good fit for people?
Oh yeah. CrossFit gym, although, you know, the
Mm,
Orange Theory Fitness, that's kind of like the same thing.
yeah.
Group workouts. When we work out with other people, it increases our oxytocin way more than when we work out by ourselves. There's a lot of cool meetup groups. A lot of people love those. I guess it depends on probably primarily whether someone's an introvert or an extrovert, and just how extreme those polarities are as well. I'm an extreme introvert.
Mm,
So for me, I'm very selective with the types of pro-social connections that I develop, engage in, and keep over time. And also, I don't need as many or as often of connecting as extroverts do. I still need those connections for sure, but I don't need as big of dosages and as regular and of long of dosages to get the same benefits that an extrovert needs. Additionally, animals, that's the only thing I think I can add to this, other than all the great things that you brought up. Rational Recovery is another great self-help group.
yeah.
Animals, papaya. A lot of this winter, you know, your kids can even be pro-social connections, of course. You know, it's human connections, but it doesn't just have to be human. In my opinion, animals, maybe not all animals, maybe not like an ant or something, or, you know, a mosquito, but depending on the person, hey, whatever floats your boat. This bird right here, papaya, who some people have called a he, and she doesn't mind, but she wants people to know that she is a female. She is my little green cheek conure here. This, you know, my belief is that this is a pro-social connection for me. Birds are totally social. They are flock animals. There's some solitary animals, lots. Birds are flock animals, and papaya has adopted me into her flock and vice versa. It's like we're a flock of humans and one bird. And so, God, I get so much oxytocin and dopamine and endorphin release hanging out with her. I talk to her, man. She talks back to me, not in English, but I've learned how to understand her body language and certain
Sure.
chirps. So it's social. It's, you know, man bird social communication and cohabitating and loving each other and sensing each other's moods and helping each other out through things. And I'm feeding for her and caring for her. And in return, you can tell she's very thankful for that. You know, pet therapy, being with animals, can be a huge strategy. There's some people that at the beginning of quitting drinking or quitting drugs, maybe for a variety of reasons, or even just one reason, they don't want to be with other people. No big deal. Get a dog if you don't have one, or a green cheek conure, or some other type of animal. Some people have a really great connection with nature, and they talk to trees, and they go and meditate with plants and different herbs. And, you know, that's like a not necessarily a social connection, although it could be, but it's a connection with a other living thing that has consciousness. They've proven this, man. If you play classical music and say nice things to water versus like gnarly, hardcore, mean things that you're saying to it, and playing hardcore, loud death metal, when you look under the microscope, when you say loving things and when there's praise, they have these awesome geometric, like kaleidoscope shapes at the molecule down deep level, really microscopic. With plants, if you say loving things to them, play classical or like relaxing music, they will grow and flourish more, versus if you either avoid them or say mean things to them, they'll wither way more. So like plants are definitely conscious, different than human consciousness, but all living things, even rocks, have consciousness. And then for people that believe in, you know, God or the universe or source or some type of higher power, or even angels, guardian angels, spirit guides, for all that type of stuff, those people can also really get connected with that whole invisible metaphysical aspect of, you know, reality, time, space versus space, time. So I think people can really explore these pro-social connections, and, you know, if you don't want to, don't stay in the box. I just talked about some way out of the box ways to connect with people other than human beings, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you've been super traumatized by people that fucked you over, people that you thought would never jack you over like that, stabbed you in the back, just really did one over on you. Maybe that happened many times and you're not ready to just go start hanging out with people. Psh, animals and plants, spirit guides, whatever you're into, whatever you want to learn about, you know, there's no box that people need to stay in. And then moving on, I don't know really anything about this aspect of smart recovery. I thought I knew quite a bit about smart recovery, but I've never seen this. VACI, VACI. Let's talk about that,
Yeah.
which this is what you came up with here.
Yeah. So it's really just another way to think about sober activities. So VACI stands for vitally absorbing creative interests. So these are things that get your juices flowing. These are things that turn you on. What can you get passionate about? Right. So this takes, I think this is a really important piece, because in early recovery, and even like, you know, we talk about post-acute withdrawal syndrome can last up to 2 years, you know, and you've spent God knows how long doing the same rigmarole of seeking, using, and recovering from. And maybe you were doing things while you were using, and your brain knows that too. You know, things like, for me, it's music. Playing music does not have the same luster, I guess. At least it didn't for a long time. Of when I was working on getting sober, picking up my guitar was almost a trigger, you know.
Yeah, the cocaine.
Or drinking, you know, and it didn't bring me any kind of joy to do it. That's gotten better. That's gotten better over the years. And, you know, I still play out, and you know, I certainly much more enjoy playing with my friends and playing it and entertaining people versus sitting here in my office.
Playing with yourself, Zach.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't, you know, writing music doesn't really do anything for me at this point. It's, but I digress though. What we're talking about is, you know, finding new things to get excited about, new hobbies. Maybe it's different activities. You know, so I guess really to sum that up is, you know, vitally absorbing creative interests, things that you can get really, really excited about. And that's, you know, that comes back to trying things more than once. So sit down with yourself, make a list of, you know, things that you would like to try. Maybe there's some off the wall shit. Maybe it's like, man, I'd really like to try skydiving one time, or cliff hanging, or, you know,
BDSM.
yeah, that'd be one too. But you know, it's like, just
we got to add some jokes into the serious recovery podcast.
You know? That never made it to my list. That
was number one on mine for early recovery.
Oh, that's a good laugh. That's a good laugh. What can you get passionate about? BDSM. Fair enough. Whatever floats your boat, man. As long as it's not hurting anybody else,
consensual,
and it's not hurting you. That's the thing. Obviously, you don't want to get into something else that's going to be counterintuitive to your best quality of life. You know, that's not the kind of vitally absorbing creative interest. You don't want to. It's not like saying, well, I really don't want to drink anymore, but heroin, I've always wanted to try heroin. Like that's not the route you want to take. That.
Hey, but Zach said vitally absorbed.
I'm all about it. I'm super passionate.
Good disclaimer there.
You know, it's you know, and I guess so what I mean by that is meaningful interests, that things that can excel your life forward, things that you can get really, really interested in, and For me, I love taking my dog hiking. That's one of my absolute favorite things to do, but by myself. I don't like to go with other people. I like to get in nature and just me and my dog. And that is one of my absolute favorite things to do. And I don't do nearly enough of it, especially this time of year. Um, but I love being in nature. I love reading. I didn't read a single solitary fucking book when I was drinking every day.
Me neither.
No, but I love to read now. I love to learn things, I love contributing to other people's lives. I'm introverted as well, but I get true pleasure out of finding ways to contribute to other people's lives in a meaningful, positive way. So I think that, again, just like pro-social connections, I think vitally observing creative interests can also help you on the spiritual sense of identifying who it is you want to be and where you fit into the world, right?
Speaking of these VACI, VACIs, I played with myself last night, Zach, on acoustic steel string guitar.
Nice.
I had the best jam sesh with Papaya. She was singing, like she gets so into it when I'm jamming those chords, a lot of open chords, just cool kind of jazz fusion, melodic progressions. I'm not like great or anything, but definitely good enough to keep a nice in tune melodic rhythm that's got a good chord progression going. And she was like just getting into it and singing and chirping and like going to it and putting her head up and down. I've been working on these different riffs, like riffs and chord progressions over the past few weeks. And finally, a few days ago, it all kind of came together into like, oh, okay, I'm going to patch this with this. I'm going to add this to this part. I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to take that part out and do this instead. And now it's like this whole, acoustic song that's 4 minutes long, maybe. And then I got Papaya singing. So I'm not really playing by myself because I got a lead singer right here, Papaya, the female green cheek conure, and she can boot it out. She can belt it, man. Woo, chirp, chirp. And so you said you like to perform for people. You have way more fun when you're performing for people and you're playing with other people. Well, I view Papaya as a very, very toned down version of what you're talking about.
Sure.
I'm jamming with her, technically, and I'm also performing for her, and that's what's getting her inspired to like start freestyling, jamming in with me. But yeah, music, same thing for me. I won't go long into it, but I had the same experience you did when it came to music. In fact, to this day, like, yeah, I don't have near as much fun. I have great jam sessions every now and then, but usually I'll pick up the guitar and just play by myself with myself for a little while. And then I'm just like, sometimes I'll play for like 2 or 3 minutes and I'm just like, I ain't feeling it. Sometimes I'll play for 15 minutes just to kill some time, get a little practice. And it's just all right. Even last night, as great as the jam sesh was, nothing even close to back in the day. Just, playing in bands several times and being out at clubs and being under the influence. But despite those being more dopamine boosting and like high sensation experiences, I enjoy these ones more. I enjoy it because these ones are grounding. These ones don't have negative consequences. And I already experienced all those huge high experiences for a long time. I did those. I got my fill. I got my fill for 20 different people, 50 different people, regular people. So yeah, I don't miss it. Yeah, things are different now, but I wouldn't trade any of this stuff now for any of the stuff that I had going on back in the drinking and drug using days.
For sure.
There's a whole chapter. Last but not least, you wrote down investing in yourself, personal growth and development.
Yeah. So there's a lot of science. There's a lot of data-driven statistics showing that when we're trying to get the dopamine threshold back down after chronic use, and overcoming pause on a behavioral side. Like, so, we obviously in our profession, and working in coaching, we talk a lot with our clients about different supplements like DLPA and tyrosine and 5-HTP, things like that can boost serotonin and dopamine. You get boosted dopamine, you get increased motivation, for all intents and purposes. But behaviorally, learning new ideologies, new philosophies, new ways of thinking, new ways to do things is huge in overcoming those old neural pathways that served us like they did for so long. But we have to learn new things. So personal growth and development is you're developing new neural pathways, new lines of thinking, and we were talking about when you put down the drug, put down the alcohol. Now you've given yourself space. You've given yourself the opportunity to open your mind up to new ways of living. The only way to learn is to have mentorship through people that know more than you. Now, it's one thing to have those pro-social connections and get in rooms where you're not the smartest person in the room and you can learn things. But the even easier way to do that is pick up a book, watch some YouTube. People like Jordan Peterson and Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and Greg McCune and Robert Greene and all of these people, Ryan Holiday, all of the people that can teach you how to be most eminently qualified human being that you can possibly be. So I think just, and I'll leave it at that, is what are you learning? What are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about how to live? If you don't know how to if you don't know how to establish new routines or habits, pick up a book like Atomic Habits, James Clear, or The Power of Habit. The author of that escapes me, but I have a whole, I don't know if I'm in the way of it, but that whole bookcase is personal growth and development books on spirituality, books on, there's so many different things in here. My Daily Stoic journal's in there. Hooked, Indistractable. I picked up Renee Brown's new book, Atlas of the Heart. I haven't read it yet.
Wait, before I saw that was upcoming. Are you saying that it's available to read now? Oh man. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna buy that physical book. That hardcover looks nice.
Not a huge book, and yeah, it is.
All right.
But Matt, so yeah, Atlas of the Heart, mapping meaningful connection in the language of human experience.
I love her. She's such a great author and speaker.
Oh, phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But the thing, I guess the thing is with that is, what are you learning? Because you spent all this time in the same mode, doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same result, but maybe the definition of insanity, expecting a different one. Maybe, step outside of yourself, step outside of your current knowledge base, because that's going to be crucial to developing the person that you're striving to be. So when you said, what do I want out of my life and why don't I have it? Well, there's a good chance that you don't know how to have it. Maybe you know what's stopping you from having it, but what are the skills that are going to be necessary to acquire to get what you want?
So glad you just brought that up, because I would not have probably brought it up if you didn't bring us here. What you're just talking about is one of the main reasons, definitely in the top reasons, why I didn't think I was going to live till, I was over 30 years old, while I was partying all the time, like didn't care about the future, was because I thought that I had a fixed mindset. I'm so glad you brought this up. I saw other people, being successful in life and being fulfilled, and even, young friends of mine at the age of 20, 21, like they just seem to be able to go apply at like all sorts of different types of jobs and like learn and have confidence to do it and go to all sorts of social gatherings and just wow. I was so picky and selective about the jobs that I felt capable of doing, that I felt I could see myself at. Same thing. I felt so selective in of the people and the situations, and so incapable, because I thought I had a fixed mindset. I had never heard of personal growth or development, self-development. I didn't know about a growth mindset back then. This is a long time ago now. I believed that, I was just killing all my neurons and all my brain cells from all the alcohol and drugs. I didn't know about neuroplasticity. I didn't know that I could read a bunch of really great nonfiction books, learn a bunch of stuff, and actually get better, actually significantly enhance and widen my mindset. I mean, the mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open. My mind was just so fixed. And reading, oh my gosh, a month after I quit drugs and alcohol, I got so into reading. And I felt that was like miracle grow for my brain. Every nonfiction book that I was reading, like same ones as you, personal development, spirituality, health and wellness, fitness, alternative medicine, just so many religions, different types of theologies and philosophies, stoicism, Buddhism, just on and on and on. And I felt that improving my brain health a lot. It was novelty. Each new book was a completely novel experience. Each chapter's on something different. So all the novelty and all the it's just, you need to stay alcohol free, to create an alcohol free life and to stay that way. That's enjoyable and not boring. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy and everything's unicorns and rainbows and milkshakes for the rest of life. No, there's going to be hard patches and struggles, of course, but it can still be enjoyable and certainly not boring, and you can be healthy. It's like this constant optimizing and coming out with new iterations of mindset and skill set. Keep enhancing your mindset, your emotional, regulation, your emotional maturity, your beliefs, your thoughts, and also your skills. Skills. I didn't have any skills back in the day. Guitar, hacky sack, skateboarding, surfing, video games. I didn't have too many. Hacky sack, I think I mentioned that, but I didn't have a lot of skills, and it was all self-seeking, self-centered skills that provided me with pleasure and euphoria and all those types of things. A lot of hedonistic stuff, certainly. Sure. But yeah, like after I quit drugs and alcohol, and I was in school to become a drug and alcohol counselor, that was the perfect environment to learn new skills, to enhance my mindset. And then the books. I've learned more from self-schooling myself at home, in my car, listening to audibles and podcasts, and even listening to YouTube videos. Drive University, baby. You can do that in net time, no extra time. When you're driving somewhere and you're learning, that is not taking any extra time out of your day. I think I learned the term net time from Tony Robbins first. The next person I heard talk about it was Eric Worre. Brian Tracy. Yeah, it's like, so even, and that's another way of not necessarily pro-social connections, but pro-healthy mentorship, to where maybe people don't like to read. No big deal whatsoever. Maybe you don't have a lot of extra time. No big deal. Every time you're driving somewhere, be listening to some type of nonfiction, personal development, spiritual development, time management, whatever. So you're learning on a regular basis. And that, I swear, that grows your brain. That changes your brain in good ways. If you're reading like crazy Stephen King horror books, even then, you're still learning something, going through experiences. And, reading is just all around epic.
Yeah. Yeah. Podcasts. I like that you brought up podcasts too. I mean, obviously this is a great podcast to learn from. One that I've personally been getting a lot out of over the last year is Lewis Howes' School of Greatness.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And Huberman Lab. Andrew Huberman is phenomenal too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think podcasts are definitely worth mentioning in that personal growth and development, because there's a ton of great ones out there.
Yeah, I love Lewis Howes' interviewing skills. I read his book, School of Greatness. I'm on his email list.
Yeah.
So as soon as that book was available, I got the hardback copy of it. Read it pretty quick. It's not too long. On Audible, I have the next book he did after that, which is The Mask of Masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
I got like maybe a third of the way into that book, and it was just not only review, but I could have, it was boring. There was not much novelty, because I've done a lot. At that point, I had done a lot of research into masculinity, and it was something that he was just recently in his life learning about and coming into, and that's why he wrote the book on it, and going through growth. But yeah, he's one of my favorite interviews, as is Joe Rogan, as is I'm going to forget his name. Impact Theory. What is the host of Impact Theory?
Tom
Bilyeu.
Tom Bilyeu. Yeah.
Thank you for that. That pitch right there that passed to me. Like Tom, all I needed was the first name.
Yeah.
He's a great interviewer as well.
For sure.
Yeah, there's so much. I watch a lot of YouTube, sometimes if I don't have a bunch of work, an hour or two a day, but most of it is I'm learning things. Yep. Yes, that's also entertaining, but a lot of it's just learning. And some of it is entertainment geared towards making me laugh. Comedy channels, I'm subscribed to comedy channels, prank channels, and those get me laughing. A lot of them are really funny, and I've subscribed to the ones that make me laugh the most. And so I try to get a daily dose of that. And if I slack off on just kind of getting silly and watching prank videos and comedy videos, yesterday morning, I was cracking up for 30 minutes because I was just in bed. I was like, oh, I don't want to, I got so much stuff to do. I'm just going to sit here and listen to some music or watch a little bit of some of the podcasters that are coming out with stuff that I like. And then I found was recommended this new comedy channel on YouTube, or not new to me. I'd never known about it. And this one dude's skit had me just dying the whole time. It was 6 or 7 minutes. I could not stop laughing. I sent that one to you, Zach. Wasn't that hilarious? Were you laughing too?
That was good stuff.
That was funny. So I watched a bunch of kind of short clips from that channel, and it's just, and then pranks. Gilstrap TV is this guy that does these wet fart pranks. A lot of the time, and here up in Pacific Beach, where Chris Scott comes to visit, and I drive up and meet him. I sent him one of those fart prank videos. I'm like, look, that's right in front of the hotel that you come to almost all the time. There's pranks, and whatever. Like we've said a couple times, whatever floats people's boats. We are all different. We all have similarities, some more than others, but we all have differences too. And the more self-knowledge we have, and the more exploratory learning and experiencing, the more we can figure out what our likes are, what our dislikes are, our preferences, our, avoidances, what lights us up and gives us energy, what makes us tired and makes us in a crappy mood, and then just following that path. So that's all I have to say, Zach. Now, I want to talk about how people can, because I know you don't do this too often. I think the last time you did it seems like 4 to 5 months ago, maybe even longer ago, where you opened your coaching. So you are taking on a few new clients right now. 2022, we're still at the beginning of it for the most part. And people can somehow connect with you to actually have a free 20-minute phone call, discovery call. So what does this process look like of how people can first learn more, then book a call if they want to, a free call, and then what that call entails and what the outcomes could be regarding that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with Fit Recovery, I am currently in the process of bringing on a handful of new clients. I do have really limited availability. I only run usually 8 or 10 clients at a time because I like to be able to give the clients that I'm working with full attention, right? So the customized coaching, Fit Recovery has phenomenal courses. The individualized coaching can be supplementary to that, or it can be something in and of itself, because all of the Fit Recovery coaches contribute a little differently and have different modalities. So the process, I'm sure, Matt, you wouldn't mind putting the link for my Calendly discovery call in the comments or in the description on this video. And you could click that, or that's probably the easiest way to for people that are watching this podcast on YouTube. Click the link, schedule a time with me. We'll take about 20 minutes to see if you're a good candidate for coaching. Most people are, some people aren't. So click the link, schedule the 20-minute call with me. That's at no cost or risk to you. So schedule that, and we'll go from there. We'll talk a little bit about your problem and see if there's a way that I can help you in a deeper way.
Sounds great. Yeah. We'll make sure the link to that discovery free call is in the description box of the YouTube version of the podcast, as well as we'll pin it as a pinned comment on elevationrecovery.com too, elevationrecovery.com/podcast. You can click this particular episode and we'll put it in the show notes for that too. And that way people can book it. I use Calendly too. It's just so slick and simple, and it seems like it works perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah. Like you said, it's no investment except for the time, 20 minutes. And that's not too big of an investment. And so, yeah, I've heard that a lot of the clients that you've had have just absolutely loved you. I've heard this from Chris, heard this from you. People absolutely love the coaching, and people love you on the podcast too, Zach. This is
I appreciate you saying that, man.
People, whenever I've interviewed you or Chris has interviewed you, man, you get such great comments underneath talking about you. And it's just, people can tell with their discernment, with their heart. They're like, this guy's heart-centered, this guy's service-centered, this guy's authentic, this guy's not trying to, come out with like this persona mask of trying to be something he's not. It's very obvious to pretty much, most people, I'm sure, that you're just a all-around great guy. I can't even imagine if the old me and the old you met in partying days.
We'd kill each other.
We would just like, but
we'd have a great time doing it, but we'd kill each other.
Yeah. So you and I both in these healthy lifestyles, we get along great. We have a great synergy, energetic chemistry, and also like we've read a lot of the same books. We enjoy a lot of the same things. So it's like, brother to brother.
For sure.
We may not be related by blood, but this was a super pro-social connection for me. This was definitely personal development for me. This is the podcast as a routine for me, and it is for you to come on here as a guest. Part of
always enjoy it.
Zach and Matt episodes every once in a while. And VACI Smart Recovery, what would that stand for again?
Vitally absorbing creative interest.
Man, doing this episode with you was that in every sense of the acronym. Well, my man, that's all I got. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I know it's a little after 9 p.m. there now. So thank you for staying up kind of a little bit past my bedtime.
For sure, man. I had a blast.
Right on. And congrats again on your engagement. Thank you so much, my brother, and have a good night.
All right, man.